Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And Mr. Secretary, it's good to see you. You and I have had several discussions about SNAP benefits for people who are gathering together and whether or not they are appropriate under the law. I asked one of your staff leaders in the Department of Agriculture, and she said despite the fact that the agency had paid out these SNAP benefits for 20 years, it was the result of a mistake. We are now trying to resolve this so that these elderly people in my state, some 8,000 of them, are not denied basic food benefits, and I hope that you will continue to work with us to try to find a solution to this problem.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, Mr. Secretary, we all know, you and I know, the Midwestern farmers better than most, and know that they need solid proof before they are convinced of most things. 10 years ago, I started asking visiting farmers a very basic question in the groups that came, Farmers Union, Farmer Bureau, and such. Do you believe that human activity has any impact on our climate and environment? And to be honest with you, for several years, no one raised their hand. There was some skepticism about that premise. I think things are coming around, and I hope they are. But I want to ask you the policies of our Department of Agriculture and proposals in the Farm Bill when it comes to two or three basic things. One of the issues is the creation of solar farms. Farm organizations are arguing that it takes prime farmland out of production, and therefore they are opposing solar farms. We all know that that is on its face a true statement in most cases, but we also know that many other factors relate to the removal of prime farmland from production. Do you see a way that we can deal with marginal or unproductive land as a source in rural areas for solar farms and get engagement from our farming community in this national effort?
I do, Senator, and the reason I do is because of the Inflation Reduction Act and the historic amount of resources provided under the REAP program, which could create the basis upon which farms could be established. I think it is important for us to encourage the utilization of that opportunity on highly erodible land, on land that is not as productive as it needs to be or should be, and as a result can create a new revenue stream for farm families. I think it's also important for us to look at our CRP program in that same vein. I also think it's important for us to look at creative ways in which those solar farms could coexist with additional operations. I know that there are many sheep operations that essentially combine solar farms and raising of sheep. The sheep basically maintain the vegetation, and then that sheep then becomes processed for a local and regional food system. So there are ways, creative ways, to have solar farms and a livestock production facility operation, for example.
I want to explore that. I also want to address one other aspect. As of October, maybe September of last year, my wife and I became electric power generators in the city of Springfield, Illinois, by installing solar panels on our roof of our home. We're not the first in the city to do it, but the first in our neighborhood for sure. The net impact is that our electric bill has gone down from $115 a month to $15 a month. And that's good news for us, and I think it shows that the investment was worthwhile. So I started asking the question of farmers who visited whether they were looking into this concept of net metering. And I can recall one farmer said to me that he wanted to install a major solar panel array on his 3,000 head hog operation and benefit from net metering because he ran fans 24/7 for the livestock. He ran into a problem. It turned out the electric co-op did not have transmission lines sufficient to deal with net metering. And so we're still trying to help him, and there may be a way out. But the problem is if we have to deal with each farmer connecting up to the proper transmission arrangement, it becomes prohibitive. You mentioned the REAP program. The REAP program is very good, but it deals with the farmer on the farm, and it doesn't deal with distribution lines, as I understand it. Is that your understanding too?
That's correct, but there's another part of the Inflation Reduction Act that does potentially respond to your concern, which is the effort to help RECs decarbonize their generation capacity. And so we have a significant opportunity that can leverage resources under the Inflation Reduction Act to encourage RECs to convert from fossil fuel-based generation systems to renewable systems, which in turn would result in the need for the infrastructure necessary to make that happen.
Are you aware of any electric co-ops in rural areas that are pursuing this?
We're just beginning that process because of the passage of the law. I think you will see and hear more about that this year, later this year, as we begin the process of reaching out to RECs and making a request for application and see what kind of interest there may be.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Thanks, Madam Chair.